share. The box office hit has spawned a ton of debate already. By Adam DiLeo Jordan Peele's movie Us, his follow-up to Get Out, has been lighting up the box office, generating a great deal of debate and intriguing fan theories. Let's delve into some of the crazier and more interesting ones so far. And be sure to also check out our Ascending Explained feature, which breaks down the finale as well as some of the more notable plot points in the film. Full spoilers follow for Us and Get Out. Pluto vs. Jason. IGN's Jim Vejvoda and Tom Jorgensen already covered the most prominent fan theory. Jason is in fact a tethered who was switched prior to the events of the film. That means this card Pluto was actually born above ground, while Jason was until recently living below ground with Red. It has some holes, but if that theory is ever confirmed, and we accept Red's story that the tethered were forced to subsist on raw rabbit, Jason's decision to rescue a bunny at the end becomes a lot less warm and fuzzy. A shared Peeleverse? This one is pretty out there, but several fans have wondered on Reddit if Peele intended both Us and Get Out to take place in the same universe, or even if Us could be a prequel or sequel to Get Out. Both films certainly focus on themes of oppression and appropriation, arguing that privilege determines who is worthy of agency and who is disposable. But going further, it's not that hard to imagine the mythology of one film giving rise to the other. Red says the tethered were created by a shadowy organization, possibly connected to the government. They made copies of people and enslaved them underground, which would somehow enable them to control the real people above. The project was a failure, however, and it was abandoned generations ago. The creation of the tethered, while failing to produce the desired results, could nevertheless have contributed to the mad science behind Get Out's Order of the Coagula. In Get Out, the villain's goal is to implant the minds of rich older people into the bodies of younger, healthier people. The process was pursued first by Roman Armitage, who we're told lost to Jesse Owens in the 1936 Olympics. After his Olympic career was over, he would have been the right age to work at the project that created the tethered, which according to Red's timeline could have been in operation as late as the 1940s. So Armitage took what he learned there, that a single soul could be shared among two people, and inverted it, allowing him and later his son to surgically squeeze two consciousnesses into one body. While we might have to wait for frame-by-frame analysis before we get any further support for the shared universe theory, for now it's a fun thought. If that connection to another Peele film isn't weird enough, the man himself raised a more humorous alleged tie-in. Speaking to Entertainment Tonight, Peele said he'd heard one fan theory suggesting the ambulance the Wilsons escape in at the end as a reference to the ambulance his EMT character drove in Little Fockers. Peele deadpanned, "I will neither confirm nor deny that my Little Fockers EMT guy is being referenced in Us." Reflections of horror icons. Jason, just like his doppelganger Pluto, spends most of the movie sporting a mask that covers his entire face. The obvious connection there is to Jason Voorhees, the slasher in the Friday the 13th movies. Interestingly, in the first film in that series, Jason is a red herring. The real killer is Jason's mother, which is a fun parallel since Jason Wilson's mom not only kills a bunch of people herself but also turns out to be the real reason behind the entire uprising. Another less obvious, and likely unintentional, horror connection is to the Halloween movies. One creative Redditor posits that the description of Michael Myers by Dr. Loomis in Halloween sounds eerily similar to the way a Red describes the tethered. Loomis says Michael had a blank, emotionless face, and of course Michael never speaks, which would be about right for a tethered. The theory goes on to suggest the real Michael's double came up from the underworld just before Halloween 1963, replaced him, donned a mask, and killed his sister. That would mean that down in the tunnels somewhere there might be another Michael who's been there for 50 years, assimilated into the tethered in much the same way Adelaide, the real Adelaide, became Red. While that's a definite reach, Peele mentioned Halloween several times in the run-up to Us release. Is it possible this was a connection he was hoping fans would uncover? Of course, the horror cinema Easter eggs don't end there. The single brown leather glove worn by the tethered bears some resemblance to the one worn by Freddy Krueger in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Adelaide's mom mentions the nearby filming of The Lost Boys, which was actually filmed on that very boardwalk in the year the opening scene of Us takes place. The Lost Boys is a name that could easily be applied to the tethered, who follow Red much like the vampires in The Lost Boys follow David. And in each case there is a hidden progenitor behind it all. There's also a VHS copy of CHUD next to the TV playing the Hands Across America commercial at the very beginning. CHUD deals with a subterranean conspiracy that results in murderous monsters emerging from the sewers. Sound familiar? The tethered are better than their counterparts. The tethered versions of the Wilsons are all somewhat damaged when we meet them, physically, psychologically or both. But the tethered may actually be superior to their above-ground counterparts in some ways. We know Zora is a strong runner, but when she tries to escape, Umbra easily chases her down. Gabe, when first attempting to confront the intruders, tries to act tough but fails miserably. When his double, Abraham, makes a run for the door, he neutralizes Gabe without breaking a sweat. We don't know how Pluto got those horrible burns on his face, but maybe every time Jason was attempting, and failing, to produce a flame with his magic trick, Pluto actually succeeded in the tunnels below. Every time Jason pulled the igniter close to his face to see what went wrong, poor Pluto had to mimic the movement with a live flame, suffering burn after burn. Finally, there's Adelaide, who is revealed to have been a tethered all along. She manages to best Red in single combat, despite having her hands shackled together. And don't forget the climbing abilities Umbra and Pluto show off when they first assault the Wilsons' house. This theory fails to account for the fact that all 4 Wilson children, the real ones and their clones, would be half-tethered. Each would have one tethered parent and one ordinary human parent, so they should be roughly evenly matched. Then again, if Red is to be believed, the tethered are themselves just ordinary humans, Americans. So if there's any appreciable difference between the kids, it's a matter of nurture rather than nature. Those are just a few of the more interesting fan theories about us floating around right now. More are bound to arise in the weeks and months to come. Only time will tell if any of those theories can explain where the tethered got all those scissors and matching jumpsuits though. Know any theories we missed? Let us know in the comments. Adam DiLeo has had a rough couple days, but at least he hasn't had to fight his doppelganger yet.